You are watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV. Thank you for joining us this morning. Our apologies for the late start, but better late than never. Now, my name is Bruno Edgar Tumuherwe, and on this episode of Issues at Hand, we have something very interesting to talk about. But before we get there, we of course know that Issues at Hand is proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel in Tebe. Now, the weekend is done, but as the week starts, you can have yourself a wonderful time at Protea Hotel in Tebe in the guise of holding conferences that will see you grow as individuals, grow as a church, or grow as a company. So they have wonderful halls on offer. Make your reservations and booking today. Now, on Issues at Hand today, we have a very interesting guest who is from a very interesting association called the United Nations Association of Uganda. Yes, you heard me right, the United Nations Association of Uganda. And she's going to tell us what it's all about, and you're going to find that it's interesting, especially when it comes in connection with United Nations. And so my guest for this morning is Lindah Asaba, who is a Programs Manager of United Nations Association of Uganda. Welcome to Issues at Hand.
Thank you so much, Bruno. Happy to be here at Family TV. My name is Lindah Asaba from the UN Association of Uganda, and I'm the Programs Manager.
All right. Now, I know there are many who, like me, are asking, okay, United Nations Association of Uganda, does that have anything to do with United Nations, and how does it work? So please tell us what the association is and what the association does here in Uganda.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, the UN is a very complex subject to look at. We know that for you to be a member of the UN, you have to be a state. And I don't know if we know it that currently it's 193 member states plus 2 observers. So for every, when the UN comes into the country, it works with the government. So what happens is when they were creating the UN associations, they saw how do we bring the common man, me and you, closer to the UN. So they created the UN associations. So these are like a go-between between the UN when it's in the country, and it brings the people from the grassroots closer to it. And that's why we promote the aims and ideals of the UN. Like currently, the UN is looking at the Sustainable Development Goals. And every member state is doing that. Like in Uganda, it's being incorporated into the National Development Plan. And when it comes to the UN associations, majority of them focus on young people. Why young people? For example, Uganda has one of the youngest populations, with close to or over 77% of the population being young. So what does that mean? You need to equip them, you need to empower them, you need to build their capacity. And the UN Association does that. And it's the only NGO that has the mandate to use the name of the UN associations. So when it gets into a member state, it becomes of Uganda, of Tanzania, of Kenya, of Denmark, all the member states. And these are governed by a body called the World Federation of United Nations Association. And these offices are situated where the UN is. So you'll find them in New York, you'll find them in Geneva, and you'll find them in South Korea as well. Currently, the UN Association of Uganda has several activities that are taking place now. And for example, I'll take an example of one which is happening right now. That is the Africa United Nations Youth Delegate Program. And how does this come up? It is first of all funded by the Foreign Affairs Ministry of the government of Germany. And it is just to boost the representation of young people at the UN platforms. For example, the General Assembly. And we had a process of application, a process of selection, and we finally came up with 20 fellows. And these 20 fellows are currently undergoing a training at Grand Global. And out of the 20, we'll be selecting 2 who will be joining the other colleagues in East Africa to go and push the youth voice. This project is currently taking place in 6 East African countries. And this is Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Sudan, South Sudan, and Ethiopia.
Well, that is well put, and we are glad that you're clearing the air. But in terms of clearing the air further, we have UN agencies in Uganda like World Food Program, UNDP, UNICEF that have the chief mandate of propagating some of the UN programs, especially specifically for them. So what is the difference between these agencies and what the United Nations office in Uganda does and when it comes to what the United Nations Association of Uganda does?
So those agencies that you've mentioned, UNFPA, UNDP, now those are implementing agencies of the UN. So when decisions come from all the different organs, they come to the Secretariat. And the Secretariat now shares them out to the different agencies. If something is connected to young people, then it will go to UNICEF. If it is on health, it goes to WHO. So those work under directly the UN. And they come to support the government in delivering these objectives. Now, when it comes to the UN associations, all of them are non-governmental. Why? Because we want to be, you have that, how do you call it, being fair when you're making decisions, and also trying to bring the person at the grassroots, bringing Bruno closer to this big elephant that they call the UN, or this big elephant called government. That's why all UN associations across the world are non-governmental. So the difference is we are NGOs, but we bring people, me and you, closer to the UN. Remember, the UN is member states. So you can't go around saying, me, Bruno, I am a member of the UN. No, it is Uganda that is a member of the UN. That is why even when they're going to any meeting, it is the delegation from Uganda that is usually headed by the president, or if he nominates, whoever is going to head the delegation.
Now, I understand that, thank you for clearing that, and we are going to even decipher that furthermore later on. But when it comes to the United Nations Association of Uganda, I understand the association is celebrating 25 years this year. So when did the association start its mandate in Uganda, and what are some of the achievements that the association has registered?
Well, it is like our boss usually says, it is 25 years young. If it's a young person, that means they're just getting out of university or they've just started their career in work. It started 25 years away. I wasn't around, but it has impacted several young people, including me. I'm also a product of the UN Association. We have people in different parts of the world that are contributing to the sustainable development agendas, that are contributing to different, for example, like the Gavi, that Gavi project. We have people in politics, we have people in education, and what happens is the UN Association gives you capacity that you will not get in school, like our education system. So it's more of, are you critically thinking about something? Are you able to do your research well? Are you able to, lobby? The word is about lobbying. Are you able to present a given issue on a given space? Are you able to fundraise? Are you able to write proposals well? Right now, you look at a proposal from someone and you'll be like thinking, okay, what happened? Where did this person go? But the UN Association gives you a chance to actually learn this when you're still young. So when you grow, you are in a better position to deliver better. So we have, I think, more than a million young people have gone through the UN Association. And how the UN Association works in Uganda, we are based in different education institutions. Now, when it comes to secondary schools, we look for the ones with universal secondary, or the UPE of secondary schools, where you're able to reach the young person who is from the slum areas, who will not get opportunities that maybe the children in international schools will be getting. So we try to take some of these capacity building sessions to them, because an international school student has a variety of opportunities, which someone from, say, Kololo Secondary School might not have. So we engage those young people and build their capacities, and they later become very important people in the country with knowledge on what is going on around them.
And I understand that when it comes to the association, like you said, bridging the gap between the youth and the UN, something else that that is key on the mission for the association is ensuring that the the things that the UN is proposing for and that is implementing are enforced, especially when it comes to the youth. And something that I discovered that the association is keen on is the Sustainable Development Goals. Can you take us through, of course you've heard so many times what they are, but can you take us through them and what they mean, especially to the youth in Uganda?
So the Sustainable Development Goals were agreed on in 2015, actually passed in 2015, but that they were replacing the Millennium Development Goals that ended in 2000, yes. Started in 2008 in 2015. So the Sustainable Development Goals replaced them. They are 17 in number. And this is a mandate by every member state of the UN. Is supposed to see that they contribute to realization of Sustainable Development Goals. When you read about the MDGs, they were more for the low developed countries. But when it came to the Sustainable Development Goals, it brings together all of us. Developed, middle income, the superpowers, everyone. And when you look at them, they are under the 5 Ps, like we call them the 5 Ps. They look at people, they look at partnership, they look at planet, they look at peace, and they look at, okay, I'm forgetting the other P, planet, I said planet. Yes. So they are distributed in there. For example, one of the goals that I love the most is goal number 3, which is on health. Now, when you go down and read the 17 goals, and it gives us 230 targets, 169 indicators. So when you look at the targets and indicators down there, it gives you, it breaks down. For example, for goal 3, it will look at physical activity, it will look at non-communicable diseases, things like the use of tobacco, why we need to reduce it, cancer control. So all those details are in there. It's not only having hospitals and beds and nurses, but it goes down and breaks it down for us. So the Sustainable Development Goal is to see that everyone is at least lifted from wherever they are and brought to the same level. Let it be education, which is goal number 4. Let it be gender equality, which is goal number 5. Or goal number 17, which is partnerships. That each country is trying to see that we work together as one block. Like they say, the world is now a sustainable village. We are now in a sustainable village somehow. So how do we all relate? Now, when it comes to the young person, how do you make a contribution? Do you know that when you go for a conference, and you put, you have a full buffet, and you go putting everything on your plate, you come up with a hill. And when you sit to eat, you only eat 2 spoons. I've lost my appetite. Do you know that you're dragging us behind on goal number 2, which is zero hunger? Can you put on your plate what you're supposed to eat? Then can you have in mind the nutrition value of it? When you are taking your child to school, are you looking at how the curriculum? Are you looking at the teachers in there? It's not only like they get 4s. It is the quality. You're looking at if 100 have entered the school, have they all completed? If they're not all completing, what can we do? It is that detail. And that is why you see that for Uganda, actually we are commended for that, we integrated the SDGs, which is Sustainable Development Goals, into our National Development Plan. So whatever is happening with other ministries, we're actually contributing to realization of the Sustainable Development Goals as a country.
Indeed, and this is very pivotal when it comes to the plight of youth, because like we're going to get into later on, when it comes to the youth, there are so many challenges in terms of sustainable development that are going through, and we want to find out what the association is doing when it comes to curtailing these challenges. And now, speaking of challenges, before we get into a break, what are some of the challenges that the United Nations Association of Uganda has faced over the years?
I think one of the main challenges is the name. There's a place we went to. Definitely. So there's a place we went to, and the young people, so when you write it in short, it's UNAU. So someone read it and all of us burst and laughed. It is United Nations African Union. So the biggest challenge comes with a name. Even when you go looking for funds to do some of the activities, people will look at you and be like, oh, you're UN and you have all the money. Why should we actually fund you? And then you go through explaining to them that this is actually an NGO that works to support. So that's one big challenge. The other is our young people. You know, there is this mentality that we have grown in the young people that everything I do, I need to be paid. The spirit of volunteerism has disappeared. I don't even know where it has gone. So young people, we don't want to volunteer. I mean, I call you for a meeting, where's my transport refund? A friend of mine was telling me yesterday, he organized a session about agriculture, people came, and up to now, that was 2 years back, up to now, they are still calling him, asking him for 10K. Yet, out of that meeting, if they had an opportunity to create circles and get more than 10,000, but they want their 10K. So that whole mentorship, the mindset of the young people has really shifted. We are so money-minded. I don't know if it's because of these donations that we keep getting as young people. I am not sure. Those are not my words. But the mindset, that's been a very, very big challenge. You have a very good program, but then someone looks at it and just reduces it down to mfunamu maker. Like, how much am I getting? Am I getting 10K? Even if it's only 5K, it is okay. And then the want to know. We as young people, there is that, we are more into the TikTok videos, you know, those funny movies, those funny short clips. But can you sit down and read the NDP 2? Have you read the NDP 3, Bruno?
Bit of it.
Do you know what is in there? Have you read all the targets of the Sustainable Development Goals? That urge. And then we have a lot of cram work. We want to cram Vasco da Gama and we will tell Vasco da Gama's story, but telling something about Uganda or about your community. And also thinking that I only create impact when I have gone to the US or when I have gone to Europe. You can actually create impact around your home, where you're renting, where you are, where you're living daily. And the other problem is the economy. You know, you tell someone to volunteer, but then, I mean, you just look at it, and just to get from where I stay to town, I need like 10,000. That means coming and going back is 20,000. So the economy alone also frustrates.
Indeed, and talking about impact, we're going to talk about the impact that the association has had on youth in Uganda, what the association is doing in terms of supporting government and other stakeholders when it comes to the plight of the youth. So I put that question to you. The youth have a lot of challenges in Uganda. We have poverty, unemployment. There are also challenges with education. So many challenges when it comes to gender-based violence, domestic violence, child marriages, teenage pregnancies. So in the 25 years of its existence and moving forward, what is the United Nations Association of Uganda doing to ensure that it supports government and other stakeholders to curtail these issues amongst the youth?
Oh, thank you, Bruno. This actually comes down to how we structure our activities. For example, I'll talk about the Model United Nations Conference, where we build practical, it's kind of like a role play of what actually happens when you go for some of these events, like say the General Assembly, or if you're taking part in a high-level political forum. How do you carry yourself? How do you prepare for it? How do you make sure your ideas actually captured? And one may ask, but how does that help me as a young person? You know, the biggest problem with young people is we don't know many things. So when the opportunities come, they kind of like bypass us. For example, when we put out the application for this youth delegate program, many people were thinking, what is this? How do I even be part of it? It was simple. Fill in application, do a video, forward. And many didn't. Yes, close to 1,000 plus applied, but many did not. And when you ask them, they're thinking, I was scared, because you have not been part of these processes, so you don't know how they impact you. And the other activity could be the leadership trainings that we do. Now, these are on some of the issues that maybe if you're in a lecture room, it's something that is just talked about and you move on and maybe will not be examined. But for example, how do I fundraise and practically fundraise? How do I come to Bruno's office and convince him to buy me this dress? You know, how do I write about this dress so that Bruno, when he reads it, he says, I need to see you? This is something that will not be taught in school or in class. So we try and give you what a colleague of mine calls the soft skills that will help you when you leave campus with your very good degrees, with your very good papers and certificates. But what is that is going to make you stand out of the crowd? So it's not like we are changing the things of government or anything. We are just supplementing them so that, yes, you have a good degree, but then you're standing out. Remember, it's over 1,000 people that will graduate with your same course. Take for example, social work. How many universities in Uganda offer social work and administration? But what will make you different from all those that have graduated that year? It is those small things, paying attention to detail. If I wrote something, I mean, a young person will write for you an email and you want to cry. And you're thinking, is this a WhatsApp chat?
Yes,
is it an email?
yes.
Thank you. There's one I told, when you're writing this email, please put me in CC. And it was Linda in CC. And you're thinking, Jesus Christ. So it is those small things that we sometimes ignore. And you get onto a panel and you're thrown away because of something small that you would have made a habit if you knew about. So that's what the UN Association tries to bring to the young people.
Indeed. And what are some of the fruits that you've seen from this investment when it comes to the youth? Because it's a very big mandate, like you mentioned earlier on, and you mentioned something which is very important, which is bridging the gap between the youth and the United Nations, so that in terms of their projects, the implementation can reach the youth. Have you seen any fruit on that end?
Yes, we have seen several. For example, I'll just take an example of the session we're having right now, the African UN Youth Delegate Program. When they came, they're spending 5 days at the hotel for the training. Day 1 and day 4, today is day 4. You'll see a very big difference on how they present their issues, on how they think about their issues, on how they relate, because of the different sessions that they've been having. When it comes to...
But my challenge towards many of these trainings, and we've had so many of them by non-government organizations, by other agencies, UN and the like, is that for many of them, from what I've seen, some of them, is that the participants come out with more theoretical knowledge that they don't apply. So do you think that what the training, the purpose of the training will be translated into actual practical usage that will develop the livelihoods of these youth who are in attendance?
Definitely, I think I should say 110%. Why? Because, for example, when you take part in this program is a 1-year program. So it's the training and it's get out in the field. Go and do what you have been told. And it is, plan. What are you going to do in the year? And when you're planning, we want you to be smart. You need to be realistic. Don't tell us I'm going to do 100 things and you end up doing only 2. No. Go and do 2 things and do them well. Like we were saying, it's better to start than to be right. So do your 2 things, do them well, and then you can build on those 2 things. And as I talk now, they are discussing what each participant is going to be doing in their community. Not in New York, not in Europe, not in maybe Karamoja, in their community. Unless you come from Karamoja, then talk about Karamoja. If you come from Chikoni, talk about Chikoni. If you come from Busega, talk about Busega. What impact are you going to do? So it is not theoretical. It is very, very practical.
Indeed, we shall wait to see the results. I'd like to have this discussion 1 year later, and then you tell us the fruits from these current trainings that are in session. But this week we are celebrating Water and Environment Week, and I know this is something big that's on the plate of the UN, and as a body that subscribes to what the UN is doing, what does this week mean for you? And are there any activities that the association is going to participate in when it comes to the Water Environment Week?
Yeah, this week means that we are pushing for the SDG on clean water. I forget the number, cramming all 17 of them. They're quite many. It's quite some work. So we have our young people in the northern part and I think western part, partnering with several other organizations, trying to do activities. But when it comes to Kampala, we are educating the communities of, how do they call that, Kamocha, about the need for clean water. So how do I, yes, I'm in a community that is surrounded by very, if you look at the latrines in there, they deposit in the different water sources, that drainage. So how do I make sure that at least my family has clean water? And what is the use of clean water anyway? Why do I need to have clean water?
Exactly, that's something I'd like you to share with us. Why is it important for us to have clean water? What's the big deal?
So the big deal is that it all goes back to your health. So clean water, everything is water. You will wake up, wash your face with water. You bathe with water, brush your teeth with water, make food with water. Everything around us is actually water. And like they say, our bodies are, the percentage is 75-85% water. So if you have clean water around you and you are clean water yourself, I am sure we shall be also reducing on the burden of the health facilities, because many of the diseases actually that we get are waterborne.
Indeed, and we are looking forward to imbuing that message as part of us, so that we can have safe and clean water for consumption here in Uganda and conservation of our environment. Now, apart from the training, what else in terms of activities is the association looking forward to doing this year?
So this year we're preparing for, I don't know if you've heard about the VNR, the Voluntary Review, National Review Reports. This is a progress report that every country makes in line with the progress they've made towards realization of SDGs. So ours will be next year. We'll be reporting next year. So we're working together with the NGO Forum, who is the host of the CSOs, and then the SDG Secretariat on SDGs that is housed under the Office of the Prime Minister, and several other UN agencies, to say that the CSOs or the NGOs have make a contribution to this report. It's a national report, so the government is the one that has to make it. But then the NGOs also supplement it. Sometimes you can do a shadow report, you can hold different consultations, and then in I think June or end of June, the SDG Secretariat is going to be hosting the annual SDG conference. And we are planning on having like side events for young people so that they can also be part of it, because it's a high level, it has all these big dignitaries, but then how do we get the young people to also interface with them and learn from them? So we are planning some activities in there. We have a hackathon. I don't know if we know what a hackathon is. Some people call it ideation. Yes. We have young people coming up with ideas to solve for SDGs, and this will be happening end of this year. And what is the main aim? It is both code and non-code. So we have young people as young as senior 1 who have brilliant ideas. Like one that I always think about is the ideas they have created around climate action. So we'll be having this on 31st up to the 2nd of April with young people in universities, those that are done with universities, and those in secondary schools, to help them, get these ideas to life. You sit there as a young person, you created this, someone had I think reducing on energy, I'm forgetting how they call it, energy use, and they want to use the air that we have and the sun over to charge phones, and to, it's really interesting. And I think Family TV needs to come and cover some of these young people so that you see the solutions that they have. And these are projects that we're not doing alone. We're trying to do them as East Africans. So we'll have the Kenya, Tanzania, Egypt, I think, and then Finland join online, as they also have the young people do the same. We're all solving for SDGs and seeing how young people can make a contribution. Because remember, these SDGs are not a thing for government. SDGs are our thing. They are ours. Like, you need to own. It's mine. Because it's very individual. It's actually personal. That's what we usually say. SDGs is a personal agenda. Because if you try and say that you're in good books with SDGs, you'll find your life actually moving straight. You find yourself in good health. For example, like I told you, SDG 3, which I like very much, there is physical activity. So if you follow and do physical activity, definitely you'll be reducing on some things. There is good nutrition. There is non-communicable diseases. There is, a reduction of alcohol consumption, tobacco use. If you follow some of those targets, personal, you will actually come out a better person.
Indeed, and that's the goal. That it starts with being a better person, then a better family, better community, then better country and better world at large. Unfortunately, time has run out for us, but thank you so much for taking us through this wonderful discussion and for enlightening us about the mandate and the role of the United Nations Association of Uganda, just to make it clear. And if people want to find out more about the association, what can they do?
Oh, we are on different social media handles. As Twitter, Facebook, and the recent one being, it's called IG, Instagram. Yes. We also have a website, which is the UN Association of Uganda.org, and then we are also located in Ntenda. And yeah, and then maybe one thing I would like to leave with the young people. It's amazing. When you're a young person, you never know that at one point you're going to shift. It actually hits you very bad. We are lucky that in Uganda, the age for young people is 35. And under the UN, it is 24. So if you look at it, many of us are no longer young people. So the youth, you should start thinking, a few years from now, you're not going to be youth anymore. You're going to be old people. So as you start, throwing all those bombs to the old people, it's just a few years and you'll be in the old people seat. So let us, as we fight for youth and rights and youth this, youth that, let us all think of what will happen when I'm on the other side and I am now the old person and there is someone saying, you old person, you're not, doing this and that. So we're not going to be youth for forever. We need to start growing up and thinking better about our sustainability.
Indeed. Thank you for taking us through that as well. And thank you for joining us. The conversation continues. Youth, you now have a platform, many platforms in which you can go and develop skills which can help you grow for tomorrow. And we shall continue to bring you such guests here on Each That Hand. But thank you for joining us this morning. Please, we will be back tomorrow, and a wonderful, entertaining, creative, and high spiritual and socio-economic content is to be found here on Church of Uganda Family TV. Have a blessed day. God richly bless you.